let's talk Epstein Files. What the heck is going on with this? I mean, the country is, to me, this is the most single consequential thing. It's not just the Epstein Files, it's the grip that Israel has on our nation. And we are not a sovereign nation. We cannot be a sovereign nation if another nation is able to control us to the level that it appears that they're able to control us. And part of that is Epstein Files, it seems. I mean, what is your take on the Epstein Files and why they're not being released?
Well, first, Kim, on the timing aspect, I concede that it looks very much like the timing was coincidental with this Epstein stupidity. We have to list. Oh, do we have the list? No, the list there. Whatever was a list. So the timing may have been occasioned by that. But I think this is a very, very minor technical sort of thing. This happens all the time. Those documents had already been sanitized. They had been prepared for publication. They were ready to go. The fact that Tulsi issued them during the Epstein thing, I think, is mostly happenstance. Maybe it's a coincidence, but it doesn't. It's a difference without it's not of much significance. Now, with respect to Epstein, I talked with people who know a whole lot about Netanyahu. Phil Giraldi is one of them. He's in our group, Veteran Intelligence Professionals for Sanity, and others. And I said, Phil, I suspect that when you try to figure out why the President of the United States can tolerate, arm, and enable genocide and forced starvation, there has to be some sort of reason. And I'm afraid that Netanyahu has Trump over the barrel because he's got blackmail material having to do with the Epstein Files that Trump may have been really, really prominently displayed in there, abusing underage girls, for God's sake. I mean, it's heinous enough to be enabling genocide, but if this is part of that's heinousness squared in my view. Okay, so I checked with these people and they said, yeah, right. I think it's at least half, maybe most of the. Maybe that explains why Trump can't kind of get away from his close connection with Netanyahu. So I said that a couple of times on the Judge Napolitano's show, and then just last night I saw an interview by Afseen Ratanzi, who does the underground, Going Underground, he calls his show. He's a very talented journalist. He had a fellow named Ben Menashe on. Now, Ben Menashe was working for Mossad. He was handling Maxwell. He was handling the daughter. He was handling Epstein. Okay. And what's the significance here? He comes on Ratanzi's Going Underground, and he's pretty much weeping. It's available. Take a look at it. He's sort of weeping. He says, no, please, Mr. Trump, please. It would be embarrassing if you release it all. It would be really, but thousands of people being killed. I don't like to see genocide. So please, Mr. President, accept the consequences, release this thing, and get out from under this blackmail.
I believe that he can end the genocide right now if he just stops being scared of the Israelis. What are they going to say about him? How many girls did he abuse? How many billions of dollars he took? Let them say whatever they say. He should stop the genocide. Let them do whatever they want to do. Morality should take over. I encourage him to stop the genocide at any price.
Perhaps he's trying to get out of Ghislaine Maxwell the Democrat blackmail material. I mean, one should remember that the de facto tortured women who got Ghislaine Maxwell in jail, I mean, they're not going to be happy when she gets apparently a pardon, a commutation. I mean, Trump didn't even need to say, oh, yeah, I could pardon her. Do you think Trump is trying to leverage something here and do what you're saying to try and beat the...
I hope he is. I hope he is trying to leverage this and just get it over with and bring peace to the Middle East.
My God.
Yeah.
Now, this guy is a reliable source because I know Bob Parry, my patron, taught me a lot about journalism, used to deal with him a lot on things like the October surprise way back when and so forth. So Ben Menashe has a pretty decent reputation. It's known that that he worked for Mossad, and it's also known that he was the handler for these people. So he knows what he's talking about. Apparently, he has a conscience, and they see these people being killed, even though they don't look like Israelis much. They're being killed, and he's saying, "Please, please, Mr. President, please accept the consequences of what you did, which will be revealed. But please, just reveal it all and get this thing over with. You shouldn't be blackmailed into supporting genocide." My God. So all I can say is, if that's a factor, man, that's just about as bad as it gets.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be the Epstein Files. I think people need to, we often forget that there's other blackmail operations. So even if they don't have them in the Epstein Files, they could have them in some other file.
Hmm.
And they say, look, if you release these files, or if you do this, or if you do that, that causes the American public to continue to scrutinize Israel. I mean, now the American public is waking up to Israel's grip on the country, and has,
Slowly.
I would say fairly rapidly in these last couple of years, we've seen more and more people waking up and saying, wait a minute. I mean, especially the younger crowd. I mean, anybody under the age of 30 or 35 years old there's very little support for Israel in that crowd.
Mhm.
And the older group is definitely waning as well.
Mhm.
And questioning the grip that that nation has on our country, and whether or not we're actually a sovereign country at this point, with all of our leaders going and kissing the Wailing Wall and making their pilgrimages to Israel, and saying no matter what they support Israel, even though they're committing a genocide. It's so completely disgusting. But there's got to be more than one blackmail operation. Epstein was just one of, I'm sure, many.
Well, yeah, I guess that's right, but isn't one enough if it if it involves
Yeah,
this kind of heinous activity?
yeah,
I
one is bad enough. That the fact that they're able to do this and hang this over our politicians. I mean, to me, this is the worst thing that could happen to our country. We're not a
yeah.
sovereign nation at this point if we're a nation totally and completely blackmailed.
Yeah, now, I agree with you. I'm hopeful that the younger generation will see things differently, but the younger generation doesn't have any money.
Right. Not yet.
Not yet. Well,
Not yet.
if
So
they
tell me, you
if
were in
they're
this,
progressive, then anybody,
right?
yeah. So
Maybe they,
let me just finish my thought here. It used to be, well, actually, this is worth remembering. Netanyahu in a private home, a private living room, 2001. Okay, he's being filmed, and there's people just adulating him, and he says, turn that camera off." He forgot to turn it off. Okay. So here's Netanyahu saying, don't worry about it. The Americans, they'll support us no matter what we do. This is the deal. He says 80% of the Americans will support us no matter what. That's absurd. Period. End quote. Now, that is absurd. That's the only thing I agree with Netanyahu, but it's not that anymore. I would guess it's maybe 50%. But
yeah,
the Congress people, well, they get 60, 70% because they're the ones that get the campaign funds, and they can't do without them, apparently. So
right.
it's a tough road to hoe. I'm hopeful, but it's going to take too long. I care about all these thousands of Palestinians that are being killed in Gaza every single night.
That's disgusting. I mean, it's totally and completely disgusting. Um, you were in the CIA, obviously, for a long time. Do you think that Epstein was a CIA asset or a Mossad asset or both?
Well, it's kind of a distinction without a difference. Mossad would be inclined to share this kind of thing with the CIA uh, as a matter of principle, but on this, I don't know. This is so sensitive. Uh, I don't know how much the CIA would have been privy to what's going on there. So the answer is I don't know, but in ordinary circumstances, Mossad and CIA are like this. On this, it may have been just a tad too sensitive to cut the CIA in on this whole operation. I mean, my God, when you think about what that operation was, uh, I know it's possible for any intelligence service to think that that's okay. I I hope that ours wasn't intimately involved.
Do you think the CIA has been infiltrated by Mossad and is under the control of Israel?
Infiltrated is the wrong word. Uh, Let me put it this way. When I joined in 1963, the analysis division, the Middle East branch was really interesting. I was working on Soviet policy, but I used to have a lot of dealings. And I noticed that there were no Jewish people in the Middle East branch. And so as soon as I got a little savvier, I asked, what is this that you don't have any Jewish people? Well, the branch chief said, well, look, it's a deliberate decision. We don't have any Arabs either. It's just too hard. It's just too hard to be objective. Okay.
Mm.
And so that's what I do. Is that right thing to do? Well, in these circumstances, I think it is. Now, just a few years later, 1975, okay, I was the National Intelligence Officer for Western Europe. There was hell breaking out in Northern Ireland, okay, a major, major battle. I was I was scared to death that Bill Casey would come down and say, "Okay, Ray, you know a lot about Ireland. You report on what's going on in Northern Ireland." I would have had to say, "No, I can't do that. I can't be impartial to what's going on in Northern Ireland. Forget it. Go ask somebody else." So
Mhm.
now the end of the story on the Middle East branch is now it's full of Jewish people, almost all Jewish people. And, call me anti-Semitic, but I will say in an intelligence agency, you don't want that. If you're going to have Jewish people there, you should have Arab analysts as well. And there aren't any Arab analysts. So yeah, when I was there, so was James Jesus Angleton, okay? And he ran everything having to do with Israel. If I wrote a Soviet foreign policy branch piece that mentioned Israel, it had to go through James Jesus Angleton to get the nihil obstat, or the imprimatur, to proceed ahead. It was
Yeah.
that bad, okay? So, and he, of course, was working with the operations folks as well. So it's that bad. Israel has been always very powerful in the CIA. There are some people who adduce the argument that that John Kennedy, that the Israelis were partly responsible for Kennedy's demise. Why? Well, because Kennedy alone among American presidents was dead set on monitoring the development of Israel's nuclear program. They didn't like that. They they fashioned all kinds of Potemkin villages there to disguise what they really do in Dimona. Um, Kennedy was aware of that, and it looked like he was really serious in preventing them from getting a nuclear weapon. Of course, they got it anyway. They stole a lot of the parts, and Netanyahu was one of the thieves.
Mhm. Do you believe that? Do you believe that Israel was behind Kennedy's assassination?
I think there are so many factors. I think it was mostly the CIA, Angleton, Dulles, uh, parts. Well, the military, of course. After after the military was forbidden from rescuing those people on the Bay of Pigs, there were
Yeah.
parts of the Secret Service, parts of the FBI that were cognizant of the thing. And if you want a really good book on this, it's James Douglas, Douglas with two S's, JFK and the Unspeakable. It
Hmm.
benefits from all the previous research out there about 15 years now, but it's by far the best compilation of the evidence, and he comes to that conclusion that it was the deep state, the CIA, the FBI, the same people who are being exposed now by Tulsi Gabbard in an unprecedented way. I mean, this is new. Nothing like this has happened since Cy Hirsch uncovered the family jewels about, trying to assassinate Castro and all kinds of things that caused the church committee to set up these oversight committees. Now, that worked for a couple of years, but then the oversight committees became the overlook committees, and that's what you've had for the last couple of decades. There's been no oversight at all. We let these secrets keep ourselves. And when we brief Congress, we don't feel we have to be fully candid or even tell them the whole story.
Right. I guess the big question now is what do we do about it? I mean, if Israel is, I guess, you don't want to use the word infiltrate the CIA, but pretty much have control over quite a bit of the CIA, control over our politicians, control over our foreign policy, getting us to support and pay for genocide. I, I, I mean, in my mind, we're not a sovereign nation anymore. I don't know exactly how we gain our sovereignty back.
Well, I think every program like this that exposes what's going on is helpful. I think that what the Israelis are doing now is so condemnable that they're losing support hither and yon, and the Israeli economy is going boom. I
Yeah.
mean, the Houthis, for God's sake, the Houthis have damaged the economy by blocking that access to Israeli ports. And the Iranians have they set fire to Haifa. I mean, there's not much left that can help trade with Israel with the rest of the world. So the economy is going down. The question is whether the American people will stand for it. If Congress decides, oh, let's give them another 15 billion, get another 15, but we don't have to do that for Ukraine anymore. Let's give it to Israel, and that's pretty much what I fear will happen unless Americans become sensitized and say, look, we don't want any more of this stuff. We want to be sovereign, and we don't want to be associated with somebody committing genocide. And, I'll tell you, Kim, forced hunger, I know about forced hunger, okay? My great grandparents were the lucky ones that escaped the forced hunger in Ireland, right? The Great Hunger,
Yeah.
the the forced starvation that the British, it was not only the potato crops, it was the British exporting lots of foodstuffs to the other colonies, right? Okay. So I'm heir to that, and so was Joe Biden, for God's sake. His great grandfather was one of the lucky ones. Really, 5 years old, got on a ship and ended up in. So we know what this is like, and maybe you'll allow me to. When I grew up in the Bronx in New York City, there were a whole bunch of Irish immigrants there, and they got letters. They got letters from Ireland during the famine and after it. And there was one little ditty they sang it, and it was about the praties. The praties were the potatoes. Okay. Oh, the praties, they are small over here, over here. All the praties, they are small over here. All the praties, they are small, and we're coming to the fall, and there's not enough for all over here. That's my heritage. I really don't like forced starvation, and Ireland, of course, is at the forefront of supporting the state of Palestine. More countries are doing that now. Maybe we should kind of accentuate the positive. That there is progress. Maybe it will come before all the Palestinians in Gaza. all wiped out.
Ray, thank you so much for being here on the show and giving us your insight into both the Russiagate scandal that's going on. And I agree, it's a big deal. I would like to see consequences. I don't know exactly what those consequences are going to be or how those consequences would be received by the American people. As much as the consequences are needed, I just worry that people would view it as a big partisan kind of warfare. And it wouldn't, it just, unfortunately, the consequences could be worse. But thank you for breaking that down for us and giving us some insight, and also into the Epstein Files and the infiltration of the CIA and whatnot.
Yeah, Kim, the
Really
issue is
appreciate it.
really joined with respect to Tulsi Gabbard. It matters a whole lot, and the odds are
Mhm.
against her. We're trying to just go back and review the stuff we wrote contemporaneously, but she
Mhm.
deserves every support that people could get her. And when I say the issue is joined, we've had two New York Times pieces already. Meretricious, lying through their teeth, but they have a lot to defend, among them two
Yeah.
Pulitzers, So she's up against it. So the more truth we can get out, the better. Not
Yeah.
so much to help Tulsi, but to help, spreading truth around. That's what we're all about.
Absolutely. Ray, where can people find you? Where would you like people to
I have a
continue following
Well,
you?
I'm on Twitter at Ray McGovern, but my website is the most lucrative place. I put my articles and my briefings and even my tweets on there. That's raymcgovern.com. And my webmaster, who's my son, says, "Now, Dad, don't forget to tell him that I spent 2 weeks putting it in easily searchable form. There's a box there if you want to know
Okay.
anything. And tell him
Okay.
tell him also, Dad, that if you don't get it, you don't get it." But I'm much too humble to say that, Kim. So leave that aside.
Ray McGovern, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Those links are down below to follow you on Twitter and to your website. Again, really appreciate your
Thank you,
time.
Kim.
Hey guys, thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show, which you could check out Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. See you there.